hit go live. Can everyone hear us?
I hope so.
Let's just press on. I shan't do the intro again. Okay, to recap, we've now joined everyone. I hope everyone can hear us now. Hi, Hung. We are talking about chatbots this afternoon with Anna Ott from HubROM in Berlin. We also have my erstwhile colleague, Louise Trines from UK Recruiter. Say hi, Louise. Again, to recap, we had a bit of a glitch at the start there. We are talking about chatbots and how they can be used in the recruiting process to interact with candidates, for the most part in the early stages of an application. When people think about chatbots, they often think about a robot voice that's actually speaking down a phone line to someone, but it's not that in this instance. A chatbot would be an interactive feature on an employer's website or a recruitment agency's website, or indeed in an app that's been built specifically for the purpose, where you're chatting backwards and forwards in text format, and it feels natural, it feels relatively human. But we'll get into that in a bit more detail with Anna. So Anna, can I ask in the first place, what is the problem that a chatbot would set out to solve? What is the problem that makes them necessary in the first place?
I mean, necessary is a kind of a discussion that we can have at the other part, but I find it quite helpful because it does mainly, it engages with candidates who haven't decided yet whether they want to apply or not. So the chatbot that we use, who lives in Facebook Messenger, by the way, so Stephen talked about where it's integrated. Ours lives in Facebook Messenger. It might as well go on the website directly. It might as well go straight to your ATS. Ours is just a conversational chatbot in Facebook Messenger, where there are so many, by the way.
Yeah.
And ours is mainly built to engage with candidates who want to find out more information about the jobs that we have as openings and the work atmosphere we have and how they can apply and stuff like that. So it's more of these kind of questions before they become actual applications. And this is also why I find it interesting, because it can answer questions that someone would probably not dare to ask a recruiter in their first engagement with a recruiter, because it's just a chatbot. It's not a human being. It doesn't even pretend to be human. So it's called HubBot because of the company name HubROM. So you can speak to him and skip all this small talk and all these things. You can just like ask straight away questions and that's why I really like it. It's instant. So unlike a human person that you send an email to and replies probably a week later or something when he or she's busy, you get instant feedback.
In the early stages of deciding to go down this path, did you have to make the decision, we don't want this to appear to be human. We know that people will recognize that it's not. So we should embrace that we're not going to pretend to be a human on the other end of the line.
Yeah, that was the decision we did, actually, because, I mean, there's also why it was not called Louise or Stephen or Anna, because foremost, because it's not very intelligent, it's just a conversation bot. So we'll speak more about automated workflows and probably more instant FAQs, and not something that is really intelligent. It's becoming more intelligent because it's a machine that learns from the feedback that you feed it with. But since it doesn't seem very intelligent, it would be really awkward to pretend it would be. So this is why we didn't say it should be called Peter or whatever. Yeah.
So could you describe a chatbot or your chatbot, as you say, it's not necessarily intelligent, as an interactive FAQ that takes a person through a flow chart, say like this, for example, a flow chart of yes and no questions, and takes them to the route that either they're suitable for further consideration or thank you for your time, you're not what we're after.
It's actually like this. So the way we integrated the chatbot is you have to talk to the bot in order to see job openings with us. You could use that in a different way. You could also say the chatbot lives on every job opening and answers just questions to that specific job. It could also be something that lives next to a job board and answers overlapping questions to the culture and the application process. Ours is the gateway to jobs because we figured that we wanted to give it some very, very little pre-screening intelligence. So you need to speak to the bot, and then you can ask the bot. The bot will ask you, where are you looking for a job as a location? And it will give you the locations that we have of jobs to offer. And it will also ask you what kind of funds you're looking for. Are you looking for an internship or a full-time job or whatever? And then it will give you the results of job openings that there are, or will tell you that there are probably no jobs available. If you look for a marketing job in Glasgow and don't have a job, it will tell you exactly that. So it will firstly help you browse jobs that will be relevant to you. And then on top, we feed the bot with questions that they are asked every specific job searcher in terms of, for example, when we hire interns, they need to be enrolled students or in the gap year. This is like not feasible for us to hire any kind of other people for internships. So it will ask especially these kind of questions. So before you can actually apply, you have to do a bit of a conversation, and then it will tell you, does actually make sense to apply. So candidates don't waste time sending me applications via email when I tell them straight away, oh, you're not a student, I can't hire you. Just not. So it takes away a lot of the time that also job seekers spend on sending in applications, waiting for feedback, following up and stuff like that. Because with the engagement of the bot, and especially when it gets smarter, they will know if they actually have a chance to land a job or an interview at least.
So for the uninitiated, when I call, I called my broadband provider this morning, and the questions asked were, you know, is it to do with this? Is it to do with that? Press 1, press 2, and that's a very rudimentary way of interacting with, you know, a computer system where, yes, a machine, and you're getting your answers across. So the chat bot is able to recognize any format of answers. So if it asks, are you looking for a job in Dusseldorf or in you know, Manchester or Glasgow? A yes and no answer is easy to recognize, but if the candidate answers in more conversational language, the chatbot is able to read that text and respond accordingly.
Not in all ways, but probably. That's what I mean with feeding a bot. So now, when we started, I actually wrote down the whole conversation, like as one of the workflows. You say, let the bot start with hi, and then if the candidate does that, and there are also quick links. So because it lives in Facebook Messenger, it might as well live in Skype or WhatsApp, but it lives in Facebook Messenger. And Facebook Messenger, you're able to do these quick replies, so buttons you just select out of. For example, if you go on which location would you like to look for a job, and it will say as quick replies those locations. So it makes it kind of easy. But also if someone would type in the city, it would also understand that. But then there are synonyms, and we are aware. For example, if a candidate asks for salary, it might be the same question as in what's the income, how much money will I make? So this is when you need to train a bot. So the bot needs to understand, this is machine learning, it needs to understand that salary and income and other synonyms like that are actually asking for the same information. So it's not a question of giving the information, it's telling the bot when to deliver which information and what it means. But this is like natural language processing. This is where bots need to become smarter, and the more input they get, the more conversations they do, the smarter they become.
Okay, so did you build your bot in-house, or was it software off the shelf that you got from somewhere else and then customized to your needs?
Bit of both. Because I work in a startup ecosystem, so I mainly work with startup and mostly HR companies that I speak to. I stumbled upon this HR tech startup called JobPal, or pal.chat. Let me check, on the right. Pal.chat is the website, and I met them in Berlin, and they told me about that they're going to build recruitment bots. This is cool, I want to do this. So we started in a very early phase of their product development, and this is also why it's an open experiment, and it's in beta, but it's live. So we are still on the way to further develop it. But it was kind of, they built stuff just for my use case, but they also built these bots for other companies and larger companies even. And they are learning currently about what kind of companies are looking for what kind of bot solutions. So they don't have standard that you can just like take it off the shelf and plug and play. It could be like this. So take in like 3-6 months from now, they're actually able to do this. Now they're still figuring out what kind of clients they have, what kind of problems they tackle and solve. So it's a bit of a customization that they also learn from me using it actually. Yes.
So what are the key decisions you need to make in deciding, well, A, we need a chatbot, B, it's going to be cheaper than an individual working for us, and C, what are the other additional benefits that we can have from this kind of technology? Are those the decisions you make, or were there other decisions in the process?
So I think you should figure out first what the bot should actually take away from the redundant workflows that you have as a recruiter. It could also, potentially somebody could do scheduling of interviews for you if you want to. It can put every applicant directly in your ATS if you want to. Ours just does the conversation, and once a candidate says, I want to apply now, I get an email.
Yeah.
So this is like a very, very basic thing, but I gave a lot of thought on the conversation that has been done before that with the candidate. I think also you need to consider what kind of volume and where the bot would live in, and what kind of audience is suitable. I mean, for us, it was very easy to decide because we just said that everyone needs to go through the bot. So as I said, it's kind of, imagine us to be like a club and the bot's our bouncer. He decides who is able to apply. And you can also send me emails directly, but most people go through the chatbot now. But this is the way that I installed the bot. You could also do different things for you. Volume is interesting. Probably should also think about languages. Ours just lives in English. So we're a German company, but our audience, as in candidates, is international. And also I would consider to be aware that the bot has a tonality in its language. So ours is very casual because we're all startup hipsters and stuff like that. But it could also be very formal. It could be, we also have different bots. Like if you want to have only one bot for internships, and you would have one because if you would be an executive search company, it would also make sense to have a chatbot. But then it should be a different bot, probably. So you could play around with these different variations and also where it lives. As said, it lives just in Facebook Messenger. You want to think of different platforms you want to use on.
So in terms of efficiencies, if we were talking about taking work that other people were doing before, does it mean that aside from candidates making inquiries through the working day, where you might have staff that would in the past have dealt with telephone inquiries or email inquiries and so on, the bot is working 24 hours a day, so it's available to candidates to interact with through the night, over the weekends, and therefore must be much more efficient from that perspective. How does that factor into to what you do?
My Monday morning is so much better because I don't open my inbox and see it an endless email list of stuff that I need to. I mean, even with tools like auto text, and now I find myself writing the same emails over and over again, answering some questions. And then there are also those people that don't send emails but still have questions, but don't dare to send me an email. So I think it's two things. And firstly, it's of course efficiency because it's 24/7, it's instant. And I just saw the statistic I put before we started this conversation. You see that 60% of the people engaging with the bot are speaking to it outside my working hours.
Okay.
And 17% do that on the weekends. So, and also if you consider to be a job seeker, especially if you're a young professional or graduate, you want to have an instant decision upon whether it does make sense to send in an application follow-up and yada, yada, yada. You want to do that now. So I think it's also very efficient for the candidate, and this is why it enhances the candidate experience. And my workday is so much more efficient because of the tiny pre-screening element we gave it. We get to the bot. I get less applications from irrelevant people, which is also a hassle for them, but also for me to send them a day to say, yeah, no, but no, thank you, which is kind of the needs we all want to avoid. So I think it's this, and if the bot gets smarter and also tells me more about what kind of questions people ask, that would probably also influence my job description. Because if I learn from the bot that a certain amount of people ask questions to a specific topic that I don't publish in the job position, job opening, I might think about putting that in the job description to make it more specific to my audience. So I think that's the major point I can't emphasize enough, is that if in my life before the chatbot, I would only speak to applicants, but now the chatbot also speaks to candidates who have not been an applicant yet. And this is very interesting.
In my experience, recruiters are a paranoid, neurotic bunch of people and are always worried about the candidate that they missed, the golden candidate that somehow left the process and would have been bang on, would have been perfect for this role. Is it possible that the chatbot is losing any golden candidates through the process that for some reason or another are mistakenly pushed out of the process and lost to your company?
Yeah, so since the chatbot doesn't really ask hard personal decision things. It just asks like technicalities of potential hiring processes and feasibility of hiring someone. So the interns that are not students, which is just not feasible, no matter how great the candidate is. I mean, probably it will repel those people who don't want to speak to a chatbot on Facebook Messenger. So in the conversation, it probably, hopefully, is clear that I don't see Facebook profiles of those people talking to it. I don't see anyone that talks to that bot. I just see the figures of how many people engage with it. But there's another thing I want to mention, is that because you said people that miss that's annoying to us as recruiters. As I said before that, I wouldn't see how many people would look at my job openings on my job site. I would probably, if I pull the Google Analytics of my website, probably see how many clicks there were. But I don't know how many people actually look at specific jobs and stuff like that. And chatbot, since it lives on that platform, we can actually see now how many people look at what kind of jobs and when they would be looking for jobs. So if you could do volume recruiting with it, and you potentially can, you can see that there, and this is why I think that especially makes sense for agencies, because you can see that, for example, there are 50 people who have looked at jobs in marketing in Bristol on the weekend, and you don't have a job in marketing in Bristol, but you could probably call one of the clients who's a minister and probably potentially has a marketing gig to land, and then you say, well, look, I've got 50 people interested, shall I send out an email to them? Because what the chatbot can do, which I can't, is engaging with people who are candidates but not have been converted to applicants yet. Because so they leave breadcrumbs if they want to. They can say, or because if the chatbot says, I don't have a job for you now because you're in the location I don't have a job to offer, they can say, yeah, but please notify me what you have. And this is something that I can't as a human.
If your chatbot lives on Messenger, then inevitably someone has to log in with the Facebook login and so on. So that means that even people who are rejected, later on you can remarket to them, you can reach out to them, you know who they are.
Only if they opt in, exactly. That's very important, because in Germany, data security is very important to us. Only if they opt in that they want the chatbot to come back to them once there is an offer that they would be potentially interested in. And then I could set re-engagement campaigns. I can say, please, dear chatbot, send out an email that there is a recruitment event in Munich to everyone who has been looking for jobs in Munich recently and who has opted in. Or there is a new marketing job, send it to them. And I actually ask everyone that I speak to in HR to think about other engagement ideas than just there is a job now. I can do, let's set up a barbecue for every developer that has to look for jobs in Berlin. And then invite them for pizza and beer, because this is what we do in Berlin. And you can re-engage those people in order to convert them to become applicants and interested, and like create stickiness to your company. I think this is very important that people think about this. And this is just not possible with those people that, I mean, the alternative would be you create job newsletter that people sign up to. Then I know about those people. The chatbot, they're totally anonymous. I don't know who the chatbot engages with.
With all technology that's used for any form of either pre-selection on the part of the employer or self-selection on the part of the candidate, where a candidate might choose to rule themselves out after learning more about a job in an organization and so on. In any of the technologies that are involved in selection that lead to a person leaving the process, I always like to see that there's a back door for candidates who, for whatever reason, reject or fall through the net of the system, that for whatever reason they can still either come around the system and make themselves known to an employer, or that the employer can check on the veracity, on the effectiveness of the system by re-looking at the candidates who were set to one side to make sure that the chatbot was continually improving and that they were learning from any mistakes that were being made. Do you have anything like that built into your system at the moment?
No, not really. I mean, of course, it can only reach out to those people that left a breadcrumb and still opted in. Another thing I want to mention is that if I send out, I mean, I can build talent pools on whatever platform I use. I can do before I just gave a public MailChimp subscription list and said, people, if you don't see what you're looking for on our job board, leave your email address here and you will be notified whenever we have a job offer or something else. But I think that it's also important that that you understand that now it is anonymous and people can go back to it. And if I send an email, it's probably in the spam folder of those people. Because I don't get their attention. But since it's in Facebook Messenger, it's on the lock screen of their iPhone, because they'll know when we receive a messenger. And it's a personal message on the lock screen of their iPhone or whatever smartphone they use, and says, "Hi Anna, you engaged with the HubBot 6 months ago, and you were looking for a job. Now there is one call to action."
Okay.
And I think this is a very, very interesting.
So again, to be crystal clear, we're not talking about the chatbot being artificial intelligence, but it is a platform upon which artificial intelligence could be built to make things more clever, so that it would learn from responses, it would learn to be more effective and improve itself along the way. Whenever that sort of thing is implemented, then of course it's important to monitor closely to make sure that the learning is along the lines that an organization would want. So do you see products coming on from your perspective where that AI is being added to the chatbots to make them cleverer?
Not chatbots, but you can do it later in the screening process. I mean, stuff like Crystal Knows, where you can do personality typing upon social media profiles and stuff like that. I don't think that is very artificially intelligent. It's just like machine learning and finding patterns, giving information. That there's also facial recognition stuff. I mean, if probably like 5 years from now, we'll probably have chatbots that you engage in video conversation in, and it will type my personality due to my facial expressions and stuff like that. It would probably be there. I don't think that I would be the biggest fan of that, because I don't want the chatbot to pre-screen so much of the candidates. At HubBot, we also stopped working with the CV, so we don't have CVs anymore, which is probably also an important fact for you to know, that when people apply, they don't apply with CVs. Because I want to have the door as open as possible to those people who actually have a chance to land a job, and have a chance to land a job is feasibility of me hiring them within the HR policies of the corporate I work with. But apart from that, I want any personality type to engage with me. I don't want to select people just upon the pass of their CV and the layout of it. So I think that I'm kind of skeptic about these things, though I understand that I'm kind of right. If you know the PIA study about how good artificial intelligence types personality compares to spouses, I don't know if you know that. I can send the link later, but this is very, very creepy, kind of, that obviously a machine can do better personality typing than a human can.
Can you give me an idea? It's obviously different for your organization because you have in-house startups that are working on chatbots and so on. But if another organization was looking to get into this area, what can they expect the implications would be cost-wise and the amount of time invested before they start getting a return on that investment?
Yeah, so I think the company we'll work with, they would charge like 8 to 10K for the implementation phase, which would be like 3 months of trial. And within these 3 months, they would probably give you more. They'll sit down with you and figure out what kind of implementation you want and what the bot should do. And they would actually help you feed the bot. Because at some point, they give the bot to me. So I have to feed the bot myself. It will probably ping me when there are unanswered questions. So whenever a candidate asks a question to the bot that bot cannot answer, I will get a ping in order to answer that question as a human, and then feed the bot with it, so the next time it can read the same answer, obviously.
It sounds like you remember the Tamagotchis from Japan, the little that you had to feed them. It sounds a wee bit like that, where you have to maintain them, or otherwise they'll die.
A bit, yeah. You need to feed it with like Club Mata and stuff like that. But yeah, it's about 8 to 10 grand to just implement it, and then it will probably like 20 grand if you do normal volume recruiting with it, but it then depends on the amount of conversations and the amount of what.
But the amount of time for an individual to have that project and work on it, is it a full-time thing to get it up and running in the first place?
No. I do get back and forth with the startup from time to time if I want to ask questions or if I find a bug, or if I want to enrich the conversation, and they're working on the analytics part now. So they asked me, and it took me probably an hour to tell them what kind of analytics I want from the bot, because this is also very important for me. We have more KPIs on people engaging with the bot. So it would probably take me, I don't know, an hour a week to further develop the bot, but it's just like an hour compared to the amount of time I would spend answering redundant questions. And if you say that overall for a whole year, and if you have a very standard implementation of a bot, it would be 30K.
Yeah.
So 30K for a recruiter who answers 24/7 emails from candidates, no matter how many people there were. So instantly, every candidate gets an engagement in a second.
So you really have to be a reasonable size organization to make it worthwhile in the first place, and to be able to experiment on a project that may not turn out, but there are now increasing examples of companies that have done it and done it well that you can learn from. I mean, every time you iterate, you're doing it better, you're doing it more effectively, and so on. I imagine that there are, or there will be soon, companies where you can buy products off the shelf, and the customizing is much less than, say, you've had to go.
Yeah, and I mean, we're in a very early stage of those chat community, and chatbots are everywhere now. But if you look at the development of chatbots in customer service, if you just look for your favorite top brands in Facebook Messenger, most of them will probably also have a chatbot now. So it's a hockey stick. I think that there will be more, and will be more HR startups working on specifically that. And for now, probably 3 to 5 on the planet that I'm aware of. And we chose one that is A in Germany because of the data protection and stuff like that, and also B, that one that I can work with. But there are probably also other companies that do the same. The companies we work with, they're also working with large companies that use that probably also for blue-collar jobs, where you want, so because we also speak about white-collar jobs here, but it could also be blue-collar jobs where people just like in Facebook, in WhatsApp Messenger, just want to find out, okay, what's the salary, how much kilometers per day should I walk, what kind of amount of kilos should I carry for being a delivery person. It would make so much sense also for international recruiting to have like 3 bots in 3 languages on your website answering those questions, because that is actually, I think the most annoying part in recruitment is when you have to engage with a lot of candidates to hire just few.
So if I was recruiting for McDonald's or for a supermarket, high volume of candidates where, frankly, the CV or the resume of the candidate is kind of irrelevant. It's not important to the job. But most of the questions I want asked and answered can be handled by a chatbot. So I could get through large volumes of individuals. And I could also, with a chatbot, pay attention to the marketing aspect of keeping these people on board from a consumer brand point of view, because with a chatbot, you don't forget to ask the question that's really important. You don't forget to give the branding message in a certain way, and you can even reward individuals by giving them links to discount tokens and so on. If you had that as part of your candidate experience, then you can handle people in a consistent fashion right across the board, which of course is very much in tandem with the whole idea of scaling with worldwide organizations like McDonald's or large supermarkets and so on. So being able to deal with large volumes of people in a consistent, high quality standard is...
Yeah, because it also helps to build an application. Because in the chatbot that we created, you have to talk to the bot, and then if you answer the right question, it will tell you, do you want to apply now? And then with that application button, they will apply. So they don't need to send in CV as an email on top of that. They just like through the conversation, they apply. And only if they answer all my questions, they can hand in their application. So it also sets standards and help building the application. So this also makes sure that I get the same consistent quality of people like in applications. And also what Luis just said in the panel here, I think this is also very important that some people are reluctant to send emails because it's also, this is why I referred to executive search earlier. If I'm a passive candidate and I just want to find out, does it make sense for me to tell them that I'm actually on the look for a new job, which I don't want to do publicly, probably. I would be reluctant even to call it an executive search company. But I can just check with the chatbot if it would make sense because of salary, location. I don't know what is important for me. I can do that and then decide upon but I want to make myself seen.
On that point, Bill Berman often will make the distinction between candidates and applicants. He will say that everyone is a candidate and everyone is a possible employee at some point, but only when they know more do they then convert to being an applicant, and they say, right, I'm now formally applying for this job. There are a lot of candidates out there who they want to know more about a vacancy, but they don't want to commit to applying. So in dealing with a chatbot, they can find out more. They can get into the shallow end of the swimming pool without committing themselves to making a formal application. And, and you can tempt them up by giving them more information or confirm that no, this isn't the job for you. I meant to ask earlier on, you're in Berlin, obviously. Culturally, there are, in different countries, there are some questions that you can and you can't ask. In the UK, you can't ask about age. You can't ask about length of experience, and you certainly can't ask about religion or family matters and so on. So there are some questions that in black and white you absolutely couldn't ask, but in a person-to-person interview, you can open up the discussions so that someone gives you the information without you formally asking for it. Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier that in Germany it can be quite rude to ask someone what their salary is, but a chatbot can ask this question and people won't be offended in the same way.
Probably, but it could also, I would see the other way around. So if a candidate asks me straight away in the first conversation I have with them, or just like in the first motivational email they sent to me before sending, and they say, yeah, I'm thinking about applying, but can you tell me what's the salary first? Yeah. I would find that really rude, and probably most times it would be. But whereas if you recruit in Israel, this is very common. So if you recruit candidates from Israel, the first question before sending an application is the salary, and then they decide whether they want to apply or not. So I think that you should also factor in those cultural differences. There are probably something that you can learn from the conversations you see in the chatbot, that some candidates want these information, that as said, you didn't think or consider to put in your job description, but now you figure that this is probably something that is important to them. So for example, I saw that because I see that Hung is in chatbot, in the chat window here. Hung told me once that on Workshape, he sees that a lot of developers, what is most important to them is the commuting time from home to work. Yeah. It's something that we don't think about in Berlin because this is not important. But now I know that this is something that I should probably publish in my job description when I hire in the UK. Yes. Especially in London, because obviously people in London don't want to commute that much, which does make sense. So I think that this also things candidates don't be asking is something that we learn from the chatbot, and also I think this is what we said earlier, because it doesn't pretend to be human, you can skip all the small talk bullshit in it. It just goes. They can just like extract information straight away from the chatbot, because they also know they're not only to be polite with it, it's just a bot, so they can be really rude if they want to get the information and go away if it's not sufficient and they don't want to lie. So it's like, I think it's also very efficient on the candidate side, and since we talk so much about candidate experience over and over, this is something that's actually helpful to them.
Perfect. Okay. I see we're going a little bit over our time now. So to wrap up, can I ask Anna, what would be if someone was coming to you and they had the money, the time, and the organization and the need for this, what would be the compelling reason that you would give them for spending that time and money on starting down the path? And what are the first things you need to consider before committing to it?
So compelling reason is we all started in HR because we want to engage with people and we don't want to answer repetitive questions. So we all be human debate, probably I would set that in. We want to speak to relevant candidates and not waste time irrelevant candidates. So someone who's actually our gatekeeper and bouncer and keeps off the noise of the irrelevant candidates and their irrelevant questions or repetitive questions. That's something that we all probably should like as recruiters, because it gives us more time to have extra conversations with humans. So it doesn't replace the human, it just enlarges my work because it helps me focus more on what I want to do and not what I don't want to do. But still needed. So this is something that is probably the most compelling reason, apart from the candidate experience, which I find very modern, very innovative, and also could reflect well on the company. Considering the brand you're working with, it could be really, really something that people would really ask for. And the amount of time, it's not that much if you really think about it's like the guy with the axe in the woods who says that I'm one with an old axe I don't find the time to shine it. Spend a week or two with a service provider of your choice for the chatbot, and then your life afterwards becomes so much better.
Okay, so if implemented correctly, a chatbot can include more candidates that were relevant that might otherwise have fallen out. Will reject more inappropriate candidates at an earlier stage, and hold on to the right people until you get to the part where they're interacting with a real human in the next stage of the selection process.
Yeah, so it's that re-engagement is something that we as humans can't do with an anonymous crowd of people that we don't know, but a chatbot can help us segment them and get back to them. So it's the overall discussion of converting a candidate to an applicant, and a chatbot is really helpful in that process.
Okay, fantastic. Louise, is there anything you want to chip in before we close?
I'm loath to speak. Can you actually hear me?
I can hear you crystal clear.
Oh, you don't believe it. No one's making any noise. That was fabulous. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. I will be sharing all of this content and links to your site and your articles, Anna, on a blog post so that people can find that after the show. So I'll do that this week. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And if anyone wants to fire go to the website that Louise posted and just apply. And I'll invite you for interviews soon.
I gave it a go while the show was going on. It's brilliant. Thank you so much for hosting, Stephen. And we'll be back next week in a fortnight.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And bye, Louise. I'll close you off here. Push this over here.